Welcome to World Alert Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Manila, August 2025. Tension hangs heavy in the air. Days ago, dramatic footage showed a Philippine supply vessel intercepted near Reed Bank. Chinese Coast Guard ships boxed in the smaller boat, blasting it with water cannons. The world watched as intimidation replaced diplomacy in waters claimed by the Philippines. This wasn't open warfare, but a calculated show of force. The incident sent shockwaves from Manila to Washington. It's the latest in a series of escalating confrontations in the South China Sea. The Philippine government condemned the Chinese actions as illegal and dangerous. Beijing countered, insisting its Coast Guard was enforcing Chinese law. Two starkly different realities, deepening the divide. On Manila's streets, anger boils over. Protesters demand action. The government faces a dilemma: escalate and risk conflict, or seek diplomacy and risk appearing weak. This standoff is more than a headline. It's a test of sovereignty and national pride. The South China Sea dispute is a complex struggle of power, law, and identity. Here, conflict is waged with Coast Guard ships and water cannons, gray zone tactics designed to assert control without war. Each incident raises the stakes, inching the region closer to miscalculation. A single mistake could have devastating consequences. The world holds its breath as the drama unfolds. What happens next could reshape the region. The choices made now will echo for years. The South China Sea is a powder keg. Every confrontation is a roll of the dice. The question remains, who will blink first? The world is watching, waiting for the next move. The fuse is burning short. Beyond the headlines, the conflict is personal for Filipino fishermen like Carlos Santos. For generations, his family fished these waters freely. Now, anxiety shadows every trip to sea. The familiar fishing grounds have become a battleground. Carlos scans the horizon, not just for fish, but for Chinese ships. Fishermen are often the first to face harassment and intimidation. Their small wooden boats are no match for steel-hulled Chinese vessels. Many have lost nets, catches, and livelihoods. The economic toll is crushing. Families struggle to survive. The sea that once fed them now brings fear and uncertainty. Their stories rarely make global news, but they are the heart of this conflict. When fishermen are blocked from Scarborough Shoal and Reed Bank, the nation's food supply suffers. Fish prices rise, hitting the poorest hardest. For millions, this is not just geopolitics, it's dinner on the table. The government sees these fishermen as symbols of national struggle. Coast Guard escorts offer little protection against overwhelming odds. Frustration and helplessness run deep. Carlos is not a soldier, just a man trying to feed his family. He wants to fish the same waters as his father and grandfather, but he's caught in a storm far beyond his control. The front line of the South China Sea isn't just ships, it's people. Every day, ordinary lives are shaped by forces far away. The fight for sovereignty is lived out on the waves. For Carlos, the stakes are survival. The sea is both hope and threat, and the storm shows no sign of passing. The South China Sea is a global economic artery. 1/3 of world shipping, over $3 trillion, passes through these waters each year. Disruption here would ripple across the world, causing delays, higher costs, and instability. That's why nations from the US to Australia watch closely. Beneath the waves lie vast oil and gas reserves, potentially 11 billion barrels of oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of gas. For energy-hungry neighbors, these resources are a prize worth fighting for. The sea is also a vital fishing ground, providing over 10% of the world's catch. Overfishing and territorial disputes threaten this lifeline. China's island building has devastated coral reefs, endangering marine ecosystems. For the Philippines, Reed Bank could be the key to future energy security as existing gas fields run dry. But Chinese claims and actions block development. The stakes are survival and prosperity for millions. The fight is not just for territory, but for economic futures. Every confrontation is about more than sovereignty, it's about who gets to thrive. The South China Sea is a battleground for resources, livelihoods, and power. The outcome will shape the region's destiny. The world's prosperity is tied to these contested waters. The struggle is far from over. The South China Sea dispute is a maze of overlapping claims. 6 parties, China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan, vie for control. China's sweeping 9-dash line covers 90% of the sea, clashing with neighbors' claims. Vietnam and the Philippines cite history and international law to back their positions. Malaysia and Brunei base claims on their exclusive economic zones. Taiwan's claim mirrors China's, adding another layer of complexity. A single reef can be claimed by multiple countries, fueling tension. These blurred borders turn rocks into flashpoints. Compromise is elusive in a sea where pride and history collide. The South China Sea was once a shared maritime crossroads. Fishermen and traders moved freely, borders were vague. Colonialism and the post-World War II era changed everything. Nations drew lines, claimed islands, and built outposts. The discovery of oil and gas in the 1970s raised the stakes. Armed clashes erupted and the sea was carved up piece by piece. UNCLOS tried to bring order, defining exclusive economic zones. Most claimants accepted UNCLOS, except China, which insists on historic rights. The clash between history and modern law still drives the dispute. What was once open water is now a chessboard of claims. The transformation is complete, from commons to conflict zone. In 2013, the Philippines challenged China at the Permanent Court of Arbitration. The case focused on the legal basis of claims, not ownership of islands. China refused to participate, dismissing the tribunal's authority. In 2016, the court ruled overwhelmingly for the Philippines. It declared China's 9-dash line had no legal basis and condemned its island building. The ruling was hailed as a victory for international law. But China rejected it outright, calling it waste paper. With no enforcement mechanism, the decision went unheeded. The Philippines, under President Duterte, set aside the ruling for better ties with Beijing. The legal victory became a moral tool, not a practical solution. Today, the ruling remains ignored on the water. The law is clear, but power still rules the waves. The struggle for justice continues. The South China Sea conflict is fought in the gray zone, between peace and war. Coast guards, maritime militias, and fishing boats are the main actors. Water cannons, lasers, and ship maneuvers replace missiles and guns. China's Coast Guard and maritime militia swarm disputed areas, intimidating rivals. The Philippines and Vietnam face routine harassment. Actions are aggressive, but stop short of open war. This puts neighbors in a bind. How to respond without escalating? Every supply run is a potential flashpoint. The risk of miscalculation is high. U.S. and allied navies conduct freedom of navigation operations, adding to the tension. The gray zone is a dangerous game. One wrong move could spark disaster. The standoff is constant and the stakes are rising. The South China Sea dispute is a global issue. Its stability underpins the world economy and international order. The U.S. sees it as a test of its influence and the freedom of the seas. A mutual defense treaty with the Philippines could draw America into conflict. China's rejection of international law threatens the rules-based order. If power trumps law here, it sets a dangerous precedent worldwide. Trillions in trade flow through these waters. Disruption would trigger global chaos. Europe, the Middle East, and Africa all depend on this route. The region is a chessboard for US-China rivalry. Island building and militarization raise the stakes for everyone. The world's eyes are fixed on these contested waters. What happens here will echo far beyond Asia. In 2025, the South China Sea stands at a crossroads. The Reed Bank standoff shows how quickly tensions can ignite. The mix of nationalism, resources, and great power rivalry is volatile. The path of confrontation risks disaster for the region and the world. A peaceful solution, grounded in international law, is urgent. The 2016 arbitral ruling offers a legal framework, but China rejects it. ASEAN's push for a binding code of conduct is critical. De-escalation means ending provocations and militarization. Dialogue and cooperation on shared challenges like overfishing can build trust. The future hangs in the balance, conflict, or cooperation. The stakes are more than rocks and reefs. They're about stability, order, and millions of lives. The world hopes diplomacy will prevail before it's too late. The waters must be calmed.